Hey guys, my name is Rai. Today, I wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about the preservation of evoker buffs, which are in the game as of 5.27.25, and why this is an absolute massive deal for tuning and preservation. This is perhaps the single largest buff I've ever seen to the spec, and maybe to any healer spec ever in a content tuning patch, and is incidental because of raid. In this video, I'm going to be going through exactly what I expect this to be from a Mythic Plus perspective when playing Chronowarden Preservation, and I'm going to be walking you through a real life example of a log in a 19 Dark Flame, which you can see a little bit of footage of here. In this key, I did about 4 million HPS and I'm only 676 item level. This was before the content tuning, so you are going to see that afterwards I'm going to do some extrapolation and some rough estimates on why I think Chronowarden Preservation is receiving a very massive buff. This is not going to change the meta of Mythic Plus, however, and I'm going to get into that briefly at the end of this video and why I think it's important in the future when seeing buffs like this and thinking about preservation. So I did want to go over here to our slideshow, which is going to show you guys that the patch notes, which are in the game, are going to increase the following spells. All healing is increased by 4%, which I will talk about because it actually doesn't increase all our healing, but it does increase the vast majority of it. Living Flame is going to be increased by 30%, which is the crux of this video and probably the most important change that we've ever seen since Dragonflight. Spirit Bloom increased by 20%, and Echo's healing increased by 100%. Now, in this log, I'm going to break you through and walk you through what I did in my 19 Dark Flame and what my breakdown kind of looks like. So why this is important is fights like the Candleking are really the only important healing encounters in Mythic Plus. Why do I say that? And that's because I think most healing in Mythic Plus is incidental and not as important as drought style encounters. Most keys can be handled by almost any healer, but when it comes to encounters like the Candleking, your measure is your ability to put out the absolute max amount of HPS within an encounter. Albeit that there are healers like Resto Druid that exist, and Resto Shaman, preservation is going to be in a very, very, very good place with this buff and already was before. Now, I want you to pay close attention here to my breakdown. Lifebind is my top heal, which is a combination of my healing spells, which are predominantly including Chronoflame and Spirit Bloom, but Lifebind does include all healing sources on myself in those windows. And my two most important heals, Chronoflame and Spirit Bloom. Between the three of these spells, this is 50% of my total healing. With a WoW Analyzer look, about 70% of my Lifebind windows are all Spirit Bloom and Chronoflame. Why is Chronoflame so high in keys? The predominant reason why is because of After Image, and this is a talent that we get as Chronowarden, which makes it so that whenever you cast an Empowered spell, you shoot up to 3 additional living flames at your party or enemy targets. Meaning every time I cast a full rank Spirit Bloom, I'll be landing 3 additional living flames on my party as well. Why is this so important? This is so important because this is getting buffed by 30%. This is not just your Living Flame casts from your Life Spark procs, from your Leaping Flames. This is 30% additional Living Flames healing on every single Spirit Bloom or Dream Breath. Not to mention, we also have our Fire Breath Living Flames, which procs Leaping as well, which are getting buffed by 30%. This combination of Echo into Call of Ysara into Life Spark proc is an instant party lay on hands with this 30% buff, and it's not even close. Even running low mastery, this is an absurd amount of healing, and between, again, these two spells alone, Chronoflame and Spirit Bloom, this is 30% of my healing on an encounter like this. So again, roughly what I'd say is this is about a 5% increase on Chronoflame on the low end, and I think that this could be a lot higher as this does go with all multipliers, and this might change my healing cadence a little bit. This could roughly be about 6%, if not more, if you're spec'd into Enkindled in a lot of these encounters, and might encourage you to spend a lot more Call of Ysara procs on that Living Flame combo, as you see in some of my videos. If you're not yet familiar with this combo, I do talk about it in my 18 Dark Flame video a little while ago, and you can feel free to check that on this channel. My Spirit Bloom contribution is about 14, almost 15% of my healing, and only 9% of my overhealing. I actually think that lowballing that this is a 3% overall heal increase is, again, very much a low ball. I think this is closer to 4, given that Spirit Bloom is now going to be our #1 priority spell by a very large margin, and it might even be separated from Lifebind a little bit because of how strong it is. I expect that Spirit Bloom could actually end up being around about a 4% healing increase, but for the sake of this, as this is a rough, estimation of what this is possible in keys, I think between these three things alone, this is about a 10% healing increase flat on a Candleking style encounter. Why that this is important is we have a lot of things we haven't even talked about. We have a 4% aura buff, and we have life bind, which is going to change the entire structure of what I'm sharing here. Now, I wanted to remove the 4% aura buff from the spells that are unaffected by healing amps. Rewind, Emerald Communion, and Renewing Blaze as 3 good examples are 3 spells in the evoker class tree that are completely static. What do I mean by that? Rewind only scales within the damage taken in the last 5 seconds, and Emerald Communion scales off of the amount of health that you have redistributed to allies as overhealing. This is a net neutral for Rewind, Communion, Renewing Blaze, obviously my health bots, and things like Insurance. I didn't include Rescue in here because it doesn't really matter too much, but I wanted to, for the sake of the argument, say that about 15.6%, maybe 15.7% is unaffected by that 4% buff. I was told that Insurance might be affected, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to exclude it, and if it is, this is about another 0.3% increase to our overall healing. With this in mind, let's do some quick math, and again, why this is important on a fight like Candleking. Our total overall healing increase is about 4%, a little bit less, obviously, with the reduction of the 15 or 16% here. So we can call this 3 for argument's sake. I think it's about 15% of 4%, so it's about 3.85. So this is going to roughly change this a little bit, as I forgot to change the number here. I had this in 5 before. On the low end, I have Living Flame contribution at about 5% of my healing increase, which I think is higher. I think this is 6. So again, this is on the low end. Spirit Boom contribution, also 3%. Again, this is on the low end. Total Echo, I think as you can see here, Echo is about 1.7% of my healing. I rounded this up because I think it's actually worth a little bit more. You do have a talent called Golden Opportunity, which increases the effectiveness of your next Echo by 100%. So I'm going to round this up to 2%. But I kept it at 1.9 here. And the most important thing in this entire slide is understanding Lifebind. Lifebind in a WoW analyzer is about 70% for me, made up of Chrono Flames and Spirit Bloom in raid. And I think that this is even more considerable in keys because our entire combination around Lifebind is always that Echo, 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 Burden Embrace, Spirit Bloom, into things like Lifespark Brox. I actually think that Lifebind is probably, even maybe close to 75%. I did remove Lifebind Communion from that window, and as well as other effects such as health bots, such as Renewing Blaze, and such as Dream Breath. So, you know what, let's be fair and say that Lifebind increase is only about 6% from this, but I actually think it's higher. I think this total increase to Pres healing is about 20%. It could be higher. Likely on most key levels, you're not going to notice this. And the reason why is the only thing I care about is the Candleking. I don't care about any sort of encounter that, has a little bit of rot healing here or there, because Prez already handles all of these things exceptionally well. Swamp Face, Big Mama, all of these things are very easily handled by Prez without too much effort if you're playing well. And the thing that I care about is the Candleking. So with that in mind, I did want to talk about why Preservation won't be meta in Mythic Plus for a while, and I think the reason why is it doesn't really matter how much you buff this spec. Preservation is the only healer in the game that does not bring a meaningful raid buff. We have Blessing of the Bronze, which reduces the cooldown of movement speed abilities of some of our buttons. We don't bring, anything like Mark of the Wild, which increases versatility by 3%. We don't have Fort, so our party's health is down effectively 5%. As well, we don't have things like Mystic Touch, which increases physical damage by 5%. So I think that this target heal to increase Chronowarden's viability and rate is really good, but it's not going to really change the perception that people have of Preservation Mythic Plus. If anything, this is really going to help us in a state of understanding to be true throughput healers. So when you're bringing Prez, you know that you're going to have the most throughput possible, and I think that this actually catches us up to Resto Druid in a lot of cases. As you can see in this clip right now, I'm doing 4 million HPS on Candleking, and this is before a potential 20% buff to, rot healing. And like I said, I'm only 676 here. I think Preservation is definitely going to be able to heal 21, maybe 22 Candleking if I get trinkets like Mr. Pick Me Up. My group is max geared, and I play well. With that in mind, I'm looking forward to hopefully a rework in the future for Prez, as I don't think that its toolkit is very warm and welcoming to new players. I think you have to work twice or 3 times as hard as the spec to even get the minimum amount of output needed to, meet these encounters. And when I am coaching the spec, it does feel like I'm teaching rocket science. I feel like the spec suffers a lot from a lot of buttons and a lot of combinations of spells that you need to do very precisely to achieve this maximum throughput. I guess lastly, to finish up, will this change the meta or how Prez will be played? I think that if you are going to see Prez played in anything, it's only going to be for the sake of its outputs, and I think that this change in keys is magnificent and very well deserved. However, I don't think that this is going to change the meta and the outlook on Prez. Hopefully though, it does change the perception of you in keys, and hopefully this does help you on your journey to becoming a better preservation evoker, as you see me lying on the ground waiting for a battle res from my team. With that, good luck with your keys, good luck with the buffs, hopefully you beat that Candleking encounter very easily now, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.